Romantic love, life's sweet reward. But not always. For many, pursuing romance has left them with the bitter aftertaste of rejection.
Oh my goodness!
That's assuming they weren't too overwhelmed by insecurity to approach their desired partner in the first place. What if it were possible, though, to unravel the knots of self-doubt and lessen the sting of past rejections, so as to go forth boldly and deftly into the relationship arena? My guest today, Jeffrey Rose, says that it is possible through hypnosis. Jeffrey is a decades-seasoned hypnotherapist and director of the Advanced Hypnosis Center in New York. His hypnotherapy interventions extend to weight loss, sleep improvement, addiction recovery, and boosting dating confidence. Today, he'll reveal hypnosis techniques to ease the stress of first contact and first date with your person of interest. He'll reveal the prime difference in what women versus men are looking for in a partner. And we'll explore whether you really can persuade the person you admire to admire you. The answer will surprise you. Welcome to Vital Signs, where we learn how to get healthier from all angles, from the biochemical and nutritional to the things we do that nourish our minds and our souls. I'm Brendon Fallon. Jeffrey, wonderful to have you join us on Vital Signs today.
Great to be here.
You're working in this area that is, I think, it's such a kind of pain point for people. In part, you're working in the relationship dating scene. We look at the current climate. We have these dating apps, the way that people communicate nowadays. It's not like a phone call. It's text message. There's communication can be very cut and dry and quite brutal. I'm wondering, working in this setting, how have you seen the way that people connect with one another, how a man and women will connect, change over recent decades?
It's very interesting and very challenging, because right now, when you're meeting people, you're doing research on these people. You're doing a Google search, going to LinkedIn. You're looking at all their social media. So you're getting like a dossier on an individual that you're considering as a possible mate. Okay. And unless someone's going to be coveting that information, you're an open book. And that makes it interesting, as opposed to the old school where you'd go out to a club or you go out to a restaurant, or you meet a person in a park and you strike up a conversation. You get to know that person. It takes a couple of dates to learn about their preferences, their interests, what they like to travel, what kind of music they listen to. We don't have that now. So we already have like the basic info, and then we need to expand on that and try to connect. I mean, I'm talking about old school, but if you really think about old school, you would be living in clans of 250 people. Everybody knew each other. We were comfortable together. We were dancing and chanting and hunting together, eating our meals together. And we would feel comfortable. We would know everybody as an extension of us. We wouldn't be intimidated about having to talk to somebody, because we're all on the same team. We're all together. So it could be very intimidating for a man, especially, to approach a woman and be expected to get some rejection there.
I think rejection is a real core aspect of the human condition, and we're rejected in various ways, often from an early age. This might be the hardest thing that someone wanting to start a relationship has to deal with. How can you kind of turn that experience of rejection, such a raw experience, into a positive for someone, so that they're not so jaded, perhaps, or so affected as they try to get out there and meet someone?
Well, in doing hypnotherapy, I'm working on the core of an individual's, their self-esteem, so they can feel more comfortable and positive about themselves and love and appreciate themselves and find greater worth in who they are. So that if someone rejects them, which is just one way of framing things, instead of just saying, next, I'll move on to somebody, you could just say, well, I guess that person's not for me, or we're not a good fit, and that's okay. And that's the attitude we need to have all the time.
When you say that, it kind of makes me think, I know people in my life who are great people, and they might be quite attractive, or they might be just very, very decent human beings who do a lot of good things. And I can think of one person in particular from my family, and I will tell them, why would you have a negative view of yourself? You've done all these things for other people, but it just doesn't seem to have that much of an impact. Even though I believe it, they just don't seem to get it. So what do you do? What can you do to have an effect in an individual who seems to be tied down with negative ideas?
Well, oftentimes, because I'm very holistic in my approach, I'm starting off with the core before self-esteem is self-care. getting people to eat healthier, to exercise more, to drink more water, to stay low on the caffeine and the sugar and the alcohol. So they're prizing themselves as being more important. You're worthy. I'm worthy of taking care of myself. That helps to build self-esteem. When we appreciate who we are and love each other and love ourselves, think we're a unique individual, and then realize everyone else out there is more or less insecure and they want you to like them, it's much easier approaching a person and being vulnerable and being authentic about who you are. And if there's no connection, just say, that's okay. I love and appreciate me. They don't need to. I don't need their approval.
One of the things that got me interested in this topic, it's something I saw on TV maybe five to 10 years ago. You might be familiar with the documentarian, the journalist Louis Theroux, and he did a series partly looking at hypnotherapy. I remember this episode that always stood out in my mind where he's somewhere in Las Vegas, and he's got this guy who's a dating hypnotherapist. And this guy, you wouldn't think much of him to look at. He's a very plain-looking guy, kind of a little bit on the awkward side. But Louis goes with him to this diner, and he's going to demonstrate using this method to meet women. And they're standing outside the diner, and they see these two women. One of the ladies is quite an attractive young blonde lady. This hypnotherapist, he says, "I know where you're from. You're from Wisconsin, right? You're from Chicago." She says, "No, I'm from Detroit." And then he kind of slides in there and he sits right in front of her. He's making direct eye contact, and he says, "I'm going to tell you something about yourself. You create very vivid visual images in your mind. I know something about you. Sometimes when you talk to people, you seem very attentive, but you're actually going to your favorite vacation place in your mind." And she's making direct eye contact with him, and she says, "You're right.
You make imagery in your mind."
You're right.
I'm absolutely
You're right.
right. Yeah.
You can see him kind of establishing this connection with her, and then lo and behold, next thing they've made plans for coffee, and Louis, the documentarian, is standing there just shocked by this, and he's asking this woman, do you just want to do this to be on TV? But it really seems authentic.
Do you want to be on TV or
Does
something?
it feel good?
Is that what this is about?
On a scale?
Long story, but I'm wondering, we see persuasion that I guess is a kind of hypnosis. You know, it's used in political campaigns, it's used in advertising. In a dating context, can we use persuasion to get the opposite sex to like us?
Absolutely. And what that gentleman was doing was having her associate a positive experience and a positive feeling to the interaction that she's having with him. You know, in politics, you'll often have campaign with great music and fanfare and flags, you know, great images, real close-ups. Everyone's dressing so well, they're showing their best image. And that's very captivating and alluring and hypnotic. And I think as a man trying to approach a woman, they should also be thinking the same way. I want to look good. I want to look like I could be worthy of this particular woman and be a good mate. See, women, when they're looking at men, even though women and men love people that are honest and have integrity and have a sense of humor, and we have shared interest. But, you know, just say innately, we're wired as a man to seek beauty. A woman is wired to seek a provider, which today is not hunting the animal and bringing it back. It's the income, okay, and the perceived or potential income that man has in the future. So a woman meeting a young man at a college, for example, who is at an Ivy League school and is getting a master's in something, the potential is there. So that's very alluring for a woman seeking, you know, considering that man as a mate. But we always have to look our best. And then also, if we're talking about hypnotically, you want to pace your communication. So if you're talking to a woman who's communicating slower, maybe she's from the South, you want to slow down that messaging, okay?
You wanted to understand, you wanted to grasp everything you're saying to really absorb it.
Absolutely, but speak at that pace because we feel more comfortable. We're more in sync when we're communicating slower with a slower person. In New York City, where I'm from, we could get away with speaking faster because people are used to that all the time. That's actually a technique within hypnosis we call NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. So we're mirroring and matching body language, and that's a very helpful thing.
That's very thought-provoking. I'm thinking, I can think of people I know, like in terms of dating, like friends I've had, the kind of struggles that they might deal with, because you're talking about men and women have their own challenges in this regard. For instance, perhaps through having that experience of rejection in the past, the idea of going and speaking to a woman, it triggers these kind of physiological responses like the shallowness of breath, and next thing the heart is beating very fast, and you feel like you're going to have a heart attack or something. It's not the kind of circumstance you want to be trying to attract someone in. If someone came to you with that kind of situation, how would you begin to help them?
Okay, well, I'd have to learn more about how they feel and think about themselves. Again, it comes back to self-esteem and self-worth. So they have to feel better about who they are, and I'm going to do whatever I could in doing hypnosis to make that more powerful and stronger. Again, self-care, self-love, appreciate who you are, and use affirmations. So after every session, I'm always having clients I'll have them edit, I'll send them some affirmations for self-esteem, some affirmations called releasing the past affirmations, facing changes affirmations, and they're using these things over and over and over again as a supplement to our hypnosis sessions. And that certainly helps big time. I also have them imagining hypnosis, doing a future pacing, where they're walking into that room, that club, that bar, that beach, initiating a conversation and connecting, getting that woman's number, and then going out on a date. There's also another good tool because we have a lot of online videos. I find some videos out there where there's this one man who's nonstop approaching woman after woman after woman and getting their number. And if you're watching that all the time, it becomes hypnotic. It just normalizes the behavior of walking up to any stranger, any unknown woman, communicating with her, and just connecting and feeling that you could do that too. Now, of course, on this particular, this one video, I'm watching this one person who's doing these videos, you're not seeing negative outcomes, but there's probably some negative outcomes. But he's really good. He's very secure. He's very confident. And he's able to get away with getting these women's numbers, cute women, all the time, by just going in there, striking up a conversation, finding some way to connect, noticing something about the way she's dressing or wearing something, and just being a good human, a positive person, a happy person. That's very alluring.
It's kind of, I guess, maybe tricking the mind a little bit, like you're seeing this repetitive action, and it kind of creates that subconscious expectation. You see it playing out so many times, and you expect it to happen in your own interaction.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And you have to just get out there and practice and do it. And maybe not shoot for the 10s, go for a 5 or 6. Even just having a conversation without any expected outcome. Just walking up to a woman, it could be at a red light while you're walking across the city street, and just having a conversation. So you just normalize talking to people that you haven't met without even having expectation to go any deeper, to go any farther. You're just communicating with a person, even asking in directions, suggesting something. Because we're so intimidated about people now, because again, we're not living, the way we did, prehistorically, where we're connected to everybody. Everybody knows everybody. And if you're on the outside, then you'd be in a different tribe and you might be, cautious about that.
Yeah, it can be a daunting playing field. And I wonder, you were talking specifically about affirmations before. In the case of, say, a man who's dealing with a lot of anxiety around approaching the opposite sex, what kind of affirmations would come into play there? Can you give some examples of that?
Oh, I could just say, I love me, I'm worthy, and I think this woman's going to like me. Or I'm going to have fun having a conversation with her. Or I expect to get to know her in a brief time. You could do so many different things. When I'm working with a client, they're my client in a hypnosis session, they're basically programming me to program them. So I'm learning all about how they think and feel about themselves and what their attitude is going into meeting a woman, where in the past they might be needing to drink 2 drinks of alcohol or 3 to loosen up, to do the same thing. And I said to them, well, you know how you feel when you do that? Good. Let's pretend, act as if you had 2 or 3 drinks. Okay? How would you think and feel? Play that role, because you're the same person without the intoxication, without the toxin in your brain.
Well, they might even be a better person, and they're going to be thinking more clearly. They're not going to be, their consciousness isn't going to be suppressed in any way. So that makes a lot of sense. I wondered, Jeffrey, would you have an example that you could share of someone who you've helped in this kind of situation?
Oh, it's happened pretty much once a week. I'm working with some men, young men in their 20s or 40s or 50s, to get out there to do things, to go beyond their comfort zone And as I said before, they're going to have to just start having conversations, feeling comfortable having conversations with the opposite sex all the time about anything. So it's like just getting your feet wet. Okay. And then you're going to go in for the deep dive later in an ocean with bigger waves, starting off small and feeling that they're okay doing that. And then they'll come back and report, hey, you know what? I struck up a conversation with about 20 people and I would never do that at all. I just talked to 20 different women. We had conversations. We smiled. And then, okay, now we're going to go a little farther. Now your goal is to have those conversations, ask some interesting questions, find out a little bit about that person, and say, you know what, I really had a good conversation with you. I'd love to continue that. Could we talk in the future? Get their phone number. Okay, now you have their phone number. Hey, let's go out for coffee. Let's go out for a walk. Let's go for dinner. Okay, and it's okay to progress along that way. There's no rush. Usually these people have been, anchored in these negative states and insecurities for years, and they don't talk to anybody. They go in their shell and they avoid things. And the last thing you want to do is avoid things. You got to just get out there, and then also have the idea that if someone says no, that's okay. Next, smile. You want to go in there like looking and feeling confident. Smile, be happy, go out there, make eye contact. Again, knowing that these women you're talking to, no matter how beautiful they are, they're more or less insecure. They want you to like them.
I like the idea of these kind of manageable steps. So because the full thing, like going up and I've got to go and approach this person, I've got to try and get their number, I've got to seal the deal. I can see that that's maybe a very daunting proposition. So if you're kind of dealing with that piece by piece and building up to it, I can see how that would be more manageable. One thing, you were talking before about how men are looking for specific things in women and women are looking for specific things in men. And in terms of men, it's the ability to make an income. If someone just doesn't have that, if they just don't have great prospects in that regard, maybe they've got a great personality and they're good in other areas, but they're happy in a fairly low-paying job. They don't intend to go beyond that. Or if it's a woman and she's just overweight, she's struggled with that for years, she's just not going to look to lose a lot of weight. How do you deal with these kinds of issues if the other sex is looking for those things? How does a person compensate if they don't have these traits in that regard?
It's a good question. And I'm going to say, if we're talking about weight loss, which is my specialty, so if a woman's overweight, I would help her to change her attitudes and beliefs about food and exercise. So she's not eating for emotional reasons. She's getting fuller on smaller portions. She's not craving processed foods. She's motivated to exercise more. And the benefit, you're losing weight, but at the same time, self-care muscle is being flexed all day. And then your self-worth, your self-esteem is higher. You look better, you feel better, and you also feel that you are looking better. Just knowing that you're looking better will give you more confidence out there in the mating game. You have to be practical too. You're not going to be able to shoot for that most handsome, investment banker if you're not looking good.
And what about on the other side, Jeffrey, for a man, if he's, hasn't got such great prospects, how can he compensate in that regard?
Well, if I wasn't able to help that individual to have a better prospect, to boost their self-esteem and self-confidence, and the resilience to achieve greater goals and become successful, I would say be practical. Go out to look for mates that are within your economic range. It just makes sense.
If someone is struggling with relationships, with dating confidence, what would you suggest they do? I'd like to ask you after this how they can connect with you, but as far as just helping themselves to start with, what would you say are the initial steps?
Okay. Fortunately, because we have this internet thing with lots of great videos, short of coming to see me as a hypnotist and hiring me, and I could certainly help you. If you could afford that, that would be great. There's so much content out there that you could look at. You could look at books on dating approaches and skill sets to do better in this area. You could also watch the videos I was talking about where you just see a man approaching woman after woman after woman, getting their number. That would be hypnotic. They could find their own affirmations out there that they use all the time. And also, they want to be a more interesting person. So the more interest that a human being has, the more interesting they are. So they have more things they can connect with. So if you appreciate art, you meet a woman that likes art, that's wonderful. You could connect on something. You go to a museum, you could look at art together and have conversation. Maybe music is something. Maybe it's politics. Okay, maybe it's hiking. Maybe it's food. whatever it is, find people that have common interests because you're going to connect better anyway. They're going to appreciate you better, and you have a shared interest that could go on forever. You can marry that person.
And it's sincere. The connection is, it's something you actually feel passionate about. They feel passionate about. So it's a natural connection there.
Yeah, you want to be yourself. You want to be the best version of yourself. You want it to be real. You want it to be authentic, because eventually you're going to be found out if you're just BSing all the time and you're doing what people do on a first date or second date, where you're just trying to show the best image possible. And then later on you're going to have to catch up, or then they're going to find out you're really not that person they thought you were.
And Jeffrey, if they do want to seek your assistance in dating and relationships, and you also mentioned if a woman has obesity issues, that's something else that you provide assistance with, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, my website is ahcenter.com, which stands for Advanced Hypnosis Center. So it's ahcenter.com. They could find me if they do a search under Jeffrey Rose, hypnotist or hypnotherapist. You'll see all these YouTube videos and podcasts and all interviews from going back maybe 25 years.
There's this kind of mystique around the idea of hypnosis, that we see it going back for generations in Hollywood films, where people kind of go into this trance and they become susceptible. Is there some semblance of that in what you're doing? What is hypnotherapy exactly? What is the mechanism at play here?
So it's not susceptible, it's suggestible. We're all suggestible. We're all hypnotized all the time. Advertising does a great job of that. So hypnosis is simply a narrowness of attention and focus and an absorption in one thing without distraction. That's hypnotic state. You can also think of hypnosis as the power that words and ideas have when we surround those words and ideas with a complete attention. So a good example is a movie. In that movie theater, at the beginning of the movie, you're very conscious. That's an awareness of the present. The subconscious mind is not engaged just yet. It's feelings and emotions and creativity and stored memories and subconscious patterns, which are habits, many of which I'm modifying with my clients. But that film starts, people are very conscious, subconscious is resting, and they see an actor, and then they're distracted by that actor, thinking when they saw that actor in another film. Film continues, they see some, let's say the Empire State Building in the background, and they're thinking, oh, I remember seeing that when I was in Manhattan, with a beautiful Art Deco building. Film continues, they start getting more and more into that film. What happens is the conscious mind starts to subside and rest, and the subconscious starts getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Then they're in trance, and that's where you could work a lot of magic. People are more suggestible. You still can't get people to do things they would never do, without hypnosis. We could help people to comply with suggestions that they want to do. They want to lose weight. They want to quit smoking. They want to quit drinking alcohol. They want to quit vaping. They want to be able to approach a woman. Those are their goals. And again, as I said before earlier, they're programming me to program them. And that's what I'm doing with the tool of hypnosis. They're more suggestible in that state. And if they're very suggestible, you could elicit a lot of profound post-hypnotic phenomena, like a positive hallucination or negative hallucination or amnesia or analgesia. Now, I don't need somebody to be highly suggestible, and that's about 25% of the population to achieve their goals. But if someone wanted to deal with chronic pain, I'd have to test to see how suggestible. And again, pretty much 1 out of 4. And that's what you're seeing when you see a stage show. 1 out of 4 are going to be compliant with the suggestions that hypnotist is doing, that stage hypnotist. The other individuals that are not complying, they're going to be suggestible, when we're working one-on-one with a therapist, but they're not going to do a lot of silly things in front of other people.
In a moment, we'll learn how Jeffrey has prepped his daughter's self-defenses against the hypnotic influences of advertising and media that are out there. But first, is coffee ultimately good for us? I weigh up its risks in light of its benefits. Here's a quick look. These new drinks benefited more than just the taste buds. And coffee arrived in England in the 1650s, was linked to greater advancements in human thought at the time. You might take a cup of coffee to get your morning buzz. It dispels drowsiness, enhances attention, raises alertness, and can make thinking more clear and agile. However, I think often subconsciously we're chasing the caffeine kick. I refer, of course, to caffeine's addiction and habit-forming potential. Videos abound on YouTube with titles like Why I'll Never Drink Coffee Again, or the 7 remarkable health benefits of coffee. So which is it? Is coffee the extender of life or the harbinger of death? Strap yourselves in for a deep dive into coffee's risks versus benefits. Afterward, find the link to that video at the top of the comments and also in this video's description below. And if you're finding this video helpful, please be sure to share it with family and friends by clicking the share arrow below. I really appreciate the suggestion or the example of film, because it's really an amazing phenomenon that we go in and we watch these films. We willingly surrender our hold on reality, and we get so absorbed in it, we forget that we're watching a film. That's the magic, I guess, of cinema, that it's done so well that we surrender our hold on reality for that period of time. At the same time, we're so influenced by these things, not just cinema, but advertising, as we talked about. Just one question I have is, on the opposite end, how can people kind of build up their defenses so that they're not so influenced by these persuasive devices that are out there in society that may be doing damage to them?
Great question, because I have a daughter that's 14 and a daughter that's 17. And because I have a dad like me, they're going to get good programming. So in this country, we have about 10,000 commercials a year for food products and processed foods that are hypnotizing us to do things we would never do intuitively. If that marketing is successful, that this destroys instinct and intuition. We're walking customers. Then people become overweight. They develop chronic diseases. And we still look to the marketplace for what to do. And then enter the diet industry in terms like low cal, low carb, low fat, diet this. Silly marketing messages sucking people to be customers. And we have a pharmaceutical industry, advertising too, which we shouldn't be allowed to do that. Okay, only our country and New Zealand could even advertise pharmaceuticals directly to the public. Now, there's not much we could do in this lifetime to change things, okay? But when I'm working with my clients or my kids, I'm making them aware that these are just messages coming at you, and you should smile and laugh about this. So I would say to my daughters, if we're watching a commercial, I'd say, what's the intention there? What are they trying to get you to do? Okay, what's their goal? They want to make money. They want to make profit. And there's a big profit margin when you're making, selling processed foods as opposed to produce that's coming from a farm. Okay. But again, if they care enough about themselves with self-esteem and love and appreciate themselves, and then they come to learn how bad these things are, they're poisons or toxins. It's like vaping or smoking or drinking. It's just junk, sugar. It doesn't belong in your body. So bring it on. Doesn't matter. Bring it on. Have those advertisements, laugh about those things, and just say, you know what, if I want something sweet, I'll eat a piece of fruit. It has sugar, but it has vitamins and minerals and fiber and enzymes and phytochemicals and antioxidants and water. That's going to make me feel good, not just at that moment, but in the future.
So I'm getting that education, being educated about this and being aware of the motives that are out there is a big factor in building that defense against being suggestible to bad influences. Jeffrey, it's been fantastic, and as I said, you got a lot to think about, and I appreciate your insights on this. Thank you.
Great to be with you, Brendon.
So from a hypnosis standpoint, growing dating confidence and boosting your dating prospects largely come down to improving how you value yourself. For example, through eating healthier food and laying off of sugar and alcohol. Find the link to Jeffrey's Advanced Hypnosis Center with hypnotherapy services spanning weight loss, addiction recovery, sleep improvement, and of course, dating confidence in the description below. Up next, is coffee ultimately good or bad for us? Watch that one now by copying or clicking the link in the pinned comment or description below. And remember, you can subscribe to stay abreast of our vital signs health insights by clicking that big red button below. It's been great to be with you. I'm Brendon Fallon, and this is Vital Signs.